There's a space beyond all striving, beyond all proving, beyond the ceaseless noise of trying to become. It is a space not far away, not hidden, not reserved for the few, but quietly dwelling within you, waiting not to be earned, but to be remembered. This space is the sacred dwelling of your truest self. It is the space of divine possibility. To live from this space is to step into the rhythm of the infinite, to no longer be tossed by the winds of doubt or fear, but to be carried by the current of divine intelligence that breathes galaxies into existence and hums silently in the beat of your heart. You were never meant to manufacture worth. You were never sent here to gather love like breadcrumbs scattered by the world. You were meant to awaken. You were meant to remember that you are already what you seek. There is no lack in you. There is only the illusion of separation. The ego will have you believe that your value is a currency to be earned. That if you do enough, become enough, shine bright enough, maybe, just maybe, you will deserve to feel whole. But wholeness is not a prize at the end of a performance. It is the starting point of your existence. You were born from wholeness. You are made of wholeness. And nothing, not a single moment of pain or misstep, can erase the divine signature that has been etched into your being. You are not here to climb some cosmic ladder toward your worthiness. You are here to come home to the still space that has never judged you, never asked you to be anything other than yourself. The space that whispers, you are enough, now, not later, not when, now. And what is this divine possibility? It is not a destination, it is a state of being, a surrender, a remembrance. It is the courage to stop grasping at identity and instead become the spaciousness behind all identity. It is the willingness to let the false fall away so the truth may emerge not in thunder but in silence, not in grandeur but in grace. When you live from the space of divine possibility, you are no longer bound by the roles the world has cast you in. You are not the anxious mind nor the weary body. You are not the story of your past or the projections of your future. You are the timeless witness to it all, the presence beneath every name, the light behind every eye, the song that sings even when there is no sound. You do not have to understand this fully to be transformed by it. You only have to allow. Allow yourself to feel the breath as a miracle, to see your own reflection and recognize the sacred, to speak from a place that needs no validation. That is living from divine possibility, not through effort, but through alignment. You are not created to be small. You are not molded in the image of fear. You were spoken into existence by the same source that spins the stars. And that source lives in you, not as a tenant, but as the architect. The world may tell you to shrink, to stay safe, to color within the lines of expectation, but the soul, your soul, is not here to conform. It is here to expand. It is here to dissolve the walls of separation between you and the infinite, between you and love, between you and the God that lives in your very breath. Rumi said, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" And so I ask you, why live in the prison of fear when the gates have always been unlocked? Why deny the call when the very longing in your heart is proof that what you seek is already planted inside you? Living from divine possibility is not about never falling. It is about falling into grace. It is about standing in your imperfections and knowing they do not diminish your divinity, they illuminate it. The cracks are not flaws. They are the entryways through which the light floods in. You are not broken, you are breaking open. You are not behind. You are unfolding at the exact pace that the universe intended. There is nothing to rush toward because the miracle is not in the destination. It is in this breath, this heartbeat, this moment where you let go of needing to be anywhere other than here. The Tao teaches the way to do is to be. And when you allow your being to bloom without restraint, you step into the flow that carries all things effortlessly. You no longer fight the current. You become the current. You no longer seek to control life. You begin to dance with it. And in that dance, miracles are born not because you begged the universe, but because you aligned with its rhythm. Not because you demanded life to change, but because you changed the way you saw life. The eyes of divine possibility see not with judgment, but with compassion. They see the frightened child within every angry word, the longing behind every act of control, the aching desire for love behind every mask. And in seeing this, they do not harden, they soften, they forgive. They bless. You begin to realize that everyone is doing the best they can with the level of consciousness they've reached. And so you let go. You let go of the need to fix, to convince, to fight for your place, because you remember your place was never at risk. You belong, not because you earned it, but because you exist. You are the miracle walking, the divine wrapped in skin, the infinite made tangible. And when you live from this place, not sometimes, not when it's easy, but as a daily practice, you no longer wait for life to give you permission to shine. You shine because it is your nature. You give because you overflow. You love because that is what you are made of. To live from the space of divine possibility is to bow to the unknown and trust that it knows your name. It is to no longer resist the unfolding, but to meet it with curiosity and reverence. It is to see yourself not as a seeker, but as a revealer. Not a wanderer, but a wellspring. Not a broken soul trying to be fixed, but a luminous being remembering the truth. The truth that you are enough, that you always have been, that you always will be. And when the noise returns, and it will, when the world pulls at you with its demands and doubts, come back. Come back to the breath. Come back to the silence. Come back to the gentle voice within that knows your worth is not up for negotiation. Come back to the space of divine possibility and live there. And so we continue deeper still, not as though we travel outward, but as though we sink inward into the infinite depths of the soul that has been patiently waiting beneath the noise. Imagine for a moment a vast and boundless sky, not the sky above, but the one within you. This sky is not disturbed by storms. It does not mourn the passing clouds. It simply holds everything sunlight, thunder, silence with the same unwavering embrace. That sky is your essence. That sky is what remains when the roles dissolve, when the striving ends, when the masks are gently laid down. To live from divine possibilities is to stop measuring your worth with the ruler of the world. It is to begin trusting what the world cannot see, but what your heart has always known. You are not your reflection. You are the light by which that reflection is seen. And this light, once remembered, does not flicker in the face of darkness. It becomes the beacon. It becomes the truth that walks into every room long before your body arrives. There is a stillness that arises when you stop arguing with reality, when you stop trying to bend life to your will and instead open to the mystery of what is unfolding. This stillness is not inactivity, it is sacred participation. It is choosing to meet life not from the armor of fear, but from the softness of surrender. Not a weak surrender, not a giving up, but the holy surrender that says, I no longer need to control this moment in order to trust it. And trust, in its highest form, is not a belief that everything will go your way. It is the quiet knowing that no matter how things unfold, the deeper current of life is always carrying you toward greater wholeness, even in pain, even in uncertainty. Especially in those moments when the ego shouts that you are lost, trust becomes the whisper that says, this too is part of your awakening. When you live from divine possibility, your identity is no longer tethered to outcomes. You no longer define success by applause or recognition. You begin to realize that real success is alignment. Real fulfillment is authenticity. It is speaking words that echo your soul, not your strategy. It is taking steps that feel like truth, even when the path is unclear. And the more you live this way, the more you realize that you are not here to fit into a world that forgot how to breathe. You are here to remind it. Not by preaching, not by performing, but by being so deeply rooted in your truth that your presence becomes its own teaching, a silent invitation for others to remember who they are too. There is a divine intelligence that beats your heart without permission, that grows the trees without effort, that carves canyons with rivers that do not rush. And that same intelligence is in you, not around you, not above you, but in you. It does not need to be reached, it only needs to be trusted. So many spend their lives trying to become powerful. But the soul is not interested in power as the world defines it. The soul seeks presence, it seeks truth, it seeks connection. And from that sacred ground, a different kind of power emerges. Not the power to dominate, but the power to bless. Not the power to control, but the power to transform. You begin to bless everything, not just the joy, but the pain. Not just the clarity, but the confusion. Because you understand now that all of it is sacred. All of it is part of the curriculum of your becoming. Every heartbreak is a teacher. Every delay is a purification. Every detour is a redirection toward the truth you were always meant to live. This is not spiritual optimism. It is spiritual maturity, the kind that no longer needs life to be comfortable in order to feel meaningful. the kind that finds beauty not just in blooming, but in falling leaves, in empty fields, in the naked winter of the soul. And when you stand in that kind of faith, not blind faith, but embodied trust, you become unshakable. Not because you never feel fear, but because you no longer believe it defines you. Not because pain never visits, but because you no longer resist its arrival. You learn to meet life with open hands, knowing that nothing real can be lost and nothing untrue can remain. To live from divine possibility is to see with new eyes, eyes that look upon the world not with judgment, but with wonder, eyes that recognize that behind every face is the same presence, the same light, simply wearing a different costume. And so you soften, you forgive, not because the other deserves it, but because your soul cannot carry the burden of resentment any longer. You forgive not to let them off the hook, but to free yourself from the prison of the past. You let go, not to forget, but to remember who you are without the weight of old stories. And in that release, you rise not above others, but into yourself. And so we continue deeper into the river of remembrance, where every bend reveals another truth that was never hidden, only overlooked. There is a sacred humility that arises when you stop trying to be extraordinary and begin to honor the sacredness of the ordinary. It is here, in the seemingly mundane, where the divine speaks loudest in the sound of your breath, in the warmth of sunlight on your face, in the still gaze of a child who has not yet learned to wear a mask. Living from the space of divine possibility is not about escaping this world. It is about inhabiting it so fully, so truthfully, that the veil between heaven and earth grows thin. You do not need a temple to touch the sacred. You need only the willingness to be present, fully, courageously, nakedly present. The present moment is not a stepping stone to something greater. It is the gateway to everything you seek. And yet, how often do we bypass it in search of a better now, a more acceptable version of what is? But you see, this moment, this unpolished, unfiltered, raw reality is not in the way. It is the way. Every breath is a prayer. Every step is an arrival. There is no need to rush toward enlightenment. Enlightenment is not a finish line. It is a dissolving of illusion, of resistance, of the story that says, I am not there yet. Because the truth is, you are not on your way to becoming, you are on your way to remembering. And what you are remembering is that the divine is not a destination, but your origin. And from this remembrance, a new kind of clarity emerges. You begin to see that every time you dishonor your truth to fit in, to be liked, to be safe, you are turning away from your own sacredness. You begin to feel the ache of self-betrayal more deeply than the fear of rejection. And so you choose differently, not because it's easy, but because it is real. Realness is the soul's language. And when you begin to speak it, you no longer care if your truth is misunderstood. You no longer measure your worth in the currency of approval. You speak not to be heard, but to echo the voice of your spirit. And in doing so, you liberate not just yourself, but everyone who witnesses your freedom. The soul does not want more achievements, it wants more aliveness. It wants to feel the wind against your skin, to taste your food with reverence, to dance without choreography, to cry without shame. It does not ask for perfection, it asks for presence. The more present you become, the more miraculous your life begins to feel, not because the circumstances change, but because your eyes have changed. To live from divine possibility is to live with eyes wide open, ears tuned to silence, and a heart unguarded. It is to trust the invisible more than the visible. It is to choose peace, not when life allows it, but when your soul demands it. It is to become a sanctuary in a world that has forgotten its sacredness. And you, dear soul, are that sanctuary. You are the still point in a spinning world. You are the lighthouse in a sea of storms. You are the breath of God in a human form, not because you've earned it, but because you are it. No matter what the past has told you, no matter what shame has whispered, no matter what the mirror has reflected, you are and have always been a holy vessel, a living testament to what is possible when a soul chooses to remember its source. So let yourself remember now, not with the mind, but with the body. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw soften, let your breath slow, and feel in this very instant that you are already home, not in a place, not in a person, but in yourself. Yes, let us go on, deeper, slower, not as a journey with steps, but as an unpeeling, a revealing like watching fog dissolve from a still lake at dawn. The lake was always there. So was the depth, so was the silence beneath the ripples. And now, as the inner fog begins to clear, we see with greater softness what has always been true. that within you is a well so deep it touches the infinite, a place not of becoming, but of being. And from this well, life begins anew, not outwardly first, but inwardly, as a subtle revolution. This is the quiet uprising of the soul, not one that seeks to overthrow, but one that seeks to reawaken. You are not here to conquer the world, you are here to re-enchant it, to touch each moment as if it were laced with God and an island, even the moments that bruise, even the ones that confuse. Especially those, for they are the sacred riddles sent not to punish you, but to draw you closer to the center of your own being. And when you arrive at that center, when you surrender to it, you do not find answers. You find awareness. And awareness, my love, is the seed of all transformation. You begin to see that healing is not the reversal of pain, but the embracing of it. That awakening is not an escape from the mess of life, but a deeper immersion into its mystery. Do not fear the mess. The mess is sacred. It is the soil from which your compassion blooms. It is the clay the divine uses to sculpt your tenderness. Every brokenness, every uncertainty, every tear shed in silence is not a flaw in your journey. It is part of the design. You are not off course. You are being carved. The Japanese speak of kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold. They do not hide the cracks, they honor them. And so too must you honor the places within you that have fractured, not as weaknesses, but as the golden lines of grace, the evidence that you lived, that you felt, that you were courageous enough to let life touch you. There is a kind of strength that does not roar, it does not push, it does not need to prove, it simply stands open, grounded, unwavering. This is the strength of the soul, aligned with the divine. A strength born not from control, but from connection, not from certainty, but from surrender. You do not need to know what comes next. You only need to remain faithful to the presence that is breathing you now. And presence is not a technique. It is not something to practice once a day. It is a way of being. It is the sacred act of bringing your full attention to this very moment, this sacred now, and declaring it enough. It is bowing to the mundane with reverence. It is brushing your hand across your own cheek and feeling it as the body of God. Do not overlook the small. The small is where the divine whispers. The small is where the infinite hides. In the way your chest rises and falls like the ocean. In the way your eyes soften when you speak truth. In the way the wind seems to listen when you finally grow still. These are not coincidences. These are sacred convergences. And when you begin to live like this, from this awakened attention, your life no longer belongs to fear, it belongs to flow. Decisions are no longer calculated, they are sensed. Movements are no longer forced, they are inspired. You begin to live not as a reaction, but as an offering. An offering is the highest art of the soul. You are not here to take from life, you are here to be a portal through which life gives itself. Not in depletion, but in overflow. You give not because you lack. You give because you are full of presence, full of peace, full of the quiet remembrance that your life is not your own. It is a thread in the great tapestry of existence. And when you see it this way, everything becomes sacred. You eat with gratitude, not consumption. You speak with care, not noise. You listen with your whole being. You love without needing to be loved back, because the love you give is no longer a transaction, it is a transmission of truth. Let this truth soak into you like warm rain on dry earth. Let it soften what has been hardened. Let it wake what has been sleeping. You are not here to get life right. You are here to live it true. And truth does not ask for perfection, it only asks for presence, for integrity, for the gentle courage to stand in your soul even when the world around you demands otherwise. And yes, there will be times when the world does not understand this kind of living, when your stillness confuses those addicted to speed, when your depth unsettles those who fear their own. But that is not your burden to carry. Your task is not to be understood. Your task is to be real, to be rooted, to be a living reminder that peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of authenticity. And so we walk further into the stillness, not with haste, but with holy reverence, as though every step were upon sacred ground because an island. Not a ground made of stone or earth, but the ground of your own being, which has held you through every season, through every fall and rising again. You may not have always noticed it. You may have been swept away by storms, but the ground was there. Unshaken, waiting, whispering. To live from divine possibility is to finally hear that whisper. It is to attune your ear to the sound beneath sound, the hum beneath the hum. The still voice within that does not argue or shout, but simply says, yes, you are that. You have always been that. And when you listen, truly listen, you stop seeking permission to be yourself. You stop asking for validation from voices that don't know your soul. You rise not with pride, but with certainty, with the quiet power of one who remembers. And memory, in the deepest spiritual sense, is not about the past, it is about eternity. It is about recalling the timeless part of you that existed before fear, before doubt, before the first time you were told you were not enough. It is a homecoming to the self before story. And that self is not separate from God, it is an extension of God. You are not a visitor in this universe. You are its child, its expression, its mirror. When you weep, the stars do not turn away, they lean in. When you rejoice, the winds join your laughter. When you doubt, the divine does not retreat, it draws closer. Because it knows your doubt is not rebellion, it is longing, longing to remember. Let that longing be holy. Let it be the fire that keeps your soul warm on nights when faith feels faint. Let it remind you that desire itself, pure, untainted desire, is not a flaw, it is a compass. The pull of your own spirit guiding you back to alignment. And what is alignment if not the deepest yes? The yes to your truth, the yes to this moment, the yes to the mystery of not knowing but still walking. It is standing in the river of life with arms outstretched, not to control the current, but to merge with it. To say, I trust this flow, I trust the intelligence that carries me, I trust the unfolding, even when I cannot see where it leads. This is not passivity. It is not detachment. It is the fiercest kind of engagement. To live without clinging, to love without grasping, to create without fearing. When you live this way, the ego loosens. It is no longer the master, it becomes the servant. No longer a jailer, but a translator. It begins to serve the soul, not silence it. And the soul, oh, the soul, it does not rush. It is not impressed by your resume, your titles, your accolades. It does not care how many people follow your light. It cares only that you do not forget the source of it, that you do not dim it in fear or distort it to please. The soul thrives not in spotlight, but in sincerity. So you return again and again to sincerity. Not a forced honesty, but the kind of natural truth that emerges when you no longer perform. When your yes means yes and your no is holy. When your silence is as articulate as your speech. When you are not striving to be spiritual, but simply being what you already are, a living prayer. And prayers, when lived rather than spoken, become movements of grace. Your life becomes the altar, your breath becomes the incense, your presence becomes the offering. And the divine, which once felt far away, begins to show up in everything. Not because it was absent, but because your awareness has become present. You begin to see the sacred not just in sunsets in Scripture, but in traffic, in tears, in the grocery clerk's eyes. Everything becomes a portal. Everything begins to shimmer with the light of inclusion. You no longer divide the world into spiritual and secular, holy and human. You see that it is all God, that everything belongs. And in this belonging, you are softened. You stop needing to prove your goodness. You stop measuring your growth by how much you achieve. You begin to measure it by how often you return to the heart, by how gently you treat yourself when you fall, by how honestly you show up when life gets messy, because it will. Messy is part of the masterpiece. It is how the paint drips when the brush dances freely. It is how the clay cracks just before the form emerges. Do not curse the chaos. It is the space where new life stirs, where the old self crumbles so that the truth can rise. Let it all in. The doubt, the joy, the grief, the laughter that comes too soon, the silence that says more than words. Let life touch you deeply, for that is how it teaches. Not through theories, but through experience, through contrast, through presence. And when you live this way, your life begins to speak, not with noise, but with resonance. Your energy precedes you. Your love lingers in rooms you've left. Your presence becomes medicine not because you try, but because you are aligned, because you have returned. Yes, we have walked this spiral together, not as a ladder with rungs, but as a sacred unfurling. Each word, each breath, each turning inward has not brought you somewhere new, but has peeled away the veils from where you've always been. And now, as we near the final notes of this sacred remembrance, there is no crescendo, no climax, only deepening, only quiet, holy descent into the ground of your being, the space of divine possibility made real. This is not an end. It is the breath that comes after exhale. The pause before beginning begins again. And here, in this pause, you find what the world cannot offer: peace without a price, love without condition, truth without disguise. This is the final remembering that you were never on a journey to acquire. You were on a journey to surrender, to shed, to let go of all that is not you, until only the radiance of your true self remained. The self that does not fear silence, the self that does not chase validation, the self that stands without needing armor, because it knows it is always known that it is clothed in the fabric of the eternal. You were never meant to impress, you were meant to express. You were never here to compete, you were here to contribute, and not by doing more, but by being more you. The most authentic, unguarded, luminous version of yourself. The one who laughs from the belly and forgives from the marrow. The one who dances even when there is no music, because the music is within. And yes, the world will still swirl, the winds will still rise, but you, anchored in the spaciousness of divine possibility, will not be carried away. You will breathe, you will bow, you will bless. Because you have become the stillness you used to seek. You have become the answer you once chased. You have become the home you believed was far away. This final return is not a destination. It is a way of being. It is the sacred art of living with your soul in the lead, of letting your words be dipped in presence, of letting your gaze be one that sees not just form but essence, of letting your love be so wide, so unguarded, so deeply rooted in truth, that others remember who they are just by standing near you. And this is the miracle, this is the grace. When you live from the space of divine possibility, you do not need to fix the world. You need only to radiate the truth of your being, and the world begins to remember itself. Not because you changed it, but because you changed the frequency from which you relate to it. And so, beloved soul, live now, not tomorrow, not when the stars align or the wounds are gone or the world applauds. Live now from the center of your being, from the stillness behind your eyes, from the infinite sky that has always been your soul. Walk softly, speak truly, love wildly, forgive quickly, and hold nothing back that is meant to be given from the wellspring of your spirit. You are no longer seeking the light. You are the light. You are no longer looking for a sign. You are the sign. You are no longer trying to become. You are, and that, dear one, is enough. That is everything. That is living from the space of divine possibility. And now you remember, and now you are free. There is a silent turning point in every soul's journey, a moment not marked by fanfare or fireworks, but by stillness. A moment when the seeking slows, the questions soften, and something ancient within you begins to rise, not as a scream, but as a whisper. That whisper carries a truth so profound and so simple that the mind, with all its complexity, can only bow to it. That truth is this: miracles are not rare events, they are your natural state. And they begin the instant you align with the source. You are not separate from the infinite. You are not apart from God or disconnected from the divine. The same energy that gives life to galaxies courses through your veins. The same intelligence that carved rivers and painted sunsets moves your lungs, beats your heart, and dreams through your eyes. And yet, somewhere along the way, you were taught to forget. Taught to believe you were only a body, only a name, only a role to play in a world of form. But I am here to remind you, not with urgency, but with reverence, that you are none of these things. You are the space in which these things arise. You are the awareness, the watcher, the silent field of presence that cannot be touched by change or time. You are the sky, and your thoughts are merely the clouds that pass. You are the ocean, and your emotions are only waves that rise and fall. You are the light, and this world is your reflection. The ego will resist this truth. It will tell you that you are small, that you must prove, perform, and achieve to earn your place in this universe. It will whisper that you are not enough, not yet, not until, and it will keep whispering that lie until you look it in the face and say, I remember who I am. You are not what you've done. You are not what was done to you. You are not your failures, your wounds, your achievements, or your regrets. You are the eternal, unchangeable presence beneath it all. The source is not outside of you, it is within you, as you forever. And when you remember this, not as an idea, but as a lived reality, life begins to shift, not in chaos, but in harmony, not by effort, but by alignment. You no longer need to chase miracles because you've become one. You no longer need to seek love because you are it. You no longer pray for peace to arrive. You breathe and remember, peace is who I am when I stop pretending I am not. In the stillness, in the surrender, miracles begin. Not because the world changes, but because your perception is healed. You begin to see as the source sees, without judgment, without fear, without the distortions of the ego. You see wholeness in the broken, light in the dark, beauty in the seemingly mundane. You see yourself not as a separate wave, but as the ocean remembering its form. And in that remembrance, life becomes sacred again. You wake in the morning, not to perform, but to express. You speak, not to be heard, but to bless. You move, not to get somewhere, but to reveal what's already here. Every step becomes a prayer. Every breath becomes a bridge. Every moment becomes a doorway into the divine. This is not a fantasy. This is your reality when you return to the truth of who you are. And that return does not require a pilgrimage or perfection. It only requires presence. The courage to stop running, the grace to be still, and the faith to know that everything you've been seeking is seeking you back. You are not here to create alignment. You are here to allow it. You are not here to earn the divine's favor. You are here to recognize you were never without it. You are not a mistake trying to become worthy. You are a miracle slowly waking up to your own light. And that light is not fragile. It does not flicker based on opinion or circumstance. It is steady, unwavering, eternal. It shines even when you forget it's there. It forgives even when you withhold grace from yourself. It is the part of you that has never been wounded, never been lost, never been anything less than divine. The Tao Te Ching says, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. But even that is only half the story. Because when you let go of what you thought you were, your name, your labels, your masks, you do not become something new. You reveal what has always been. The pure awareness, the divine spark, the one who watches the sunrise without needing to explain it, the one who feels love ripple through their chest for no reason other than because it's true. That is who you are. You are not the seeker. You are the sought. You are not the question. You are the answer waiting to be realized. And when you finally, fully remember this, miracles cease to be rare. They become the rhythm of your days. Because miracles are not interruptions of nature. They are the return to it. They are what happens when the false dissolves and the real remains. They are not loud. They are not flashy. But they are life-altering. The miracle of waking up in love with yourself, not as an egoic concept, but as a spiritual reality. The miracle of looking into another's eyes and seeing yourself. The miracle of forgiving, not because you condone, but because you are no longer willing to carry pain into your future. The miracle of gratitude so deep it makes your ordinary moments feel holy. This is what happens when you align with the source. Not because the source rewards you for obedience, but because alignment removes the static that blocks the signal of your own soul. And when the static is gone, clarity emerges. Love flows, peace remains, and life becomes not a problem to solve, but a mystery to live. This is the miracle. This is the invitation, and this is who you are. The miracle, you see, is not reserved for saints or sages. It does not require perfect faith or flawless behavior. It asks only for your willingness to remember. And once you remember, even for a moment, you begin to live as one who no longer walks alone because you realize you never have. That silent presence, the source within, has walked every step with you through joy and grief, through triumph and confusion, not judging, not correcting, but patiently waiting for you to turn inward and listen. And when you do, when you listen, not with your ears, but with your being, you begin to hear a different rhythm beneath the noise. Not the rhythm of the world, frantic and fearful, but the rhythm of truth, steady and serene. It beats like a second heart within you, untouched by time. That is alignment, not a task, but a tuning. You tune your awareness not to the volume of the world, but to the silence of the infinite. In that silence, you remember something you never truly forgot, that you are safe, not because life promises comfort, but because you are held by something greater than circumstance. You are cradled by the same force that opens flowers without hands and lifts oceans without struggle. This force does not abandon, it does not punish, it only asks to be let in. But to let it in, you must first let go. Let go of the need to control what was never yours to begin with. Let go of the maps drawn by fear and the scripts written by expectation. The miracle does not unfold where the ego demands it blooms, where surrender creates space. You cannot clutch your way into peace. You cannot strategize your way into grace. You can only soften. You can only yield. Like the river that flows, not because it knows the way, but because it trusts the slope beneath it, your life begins to move when you stop resisting the current of your own soul. This is not passivity. This is power, the kind of power that requires no noise, no defense, the kind of power that can stand quietly in a storm and know the storm will pass, but the soul will remain. You are not here to fight life into shape. You are here to dance with it, to let it reveal its rhythm to you, not through control, but through communion. And this communion begins the moment you stop treating life as an enemy to be conquered and start treating it as a partner in awakening. When you align with the source, life stops being a battle and becomes a conversation. Not everything will be easy, but everything will be sacred. Not every path will be smooth, but every step will be meaningful. Even your sorrow will be transformed, not erased, but alchemized. What once broke you now opens you. What once made you ache now makes you wise. Pain ceases to be punishment and becomes initiation. Suffering stops defining you and starts refining you. You begin to see that nothing was wasted. Not the silence, not the confusion, not even the heartbreak. Because all of it, every drop, was guiding you back to this one holy truth. You are never outside the arms of the divine. Not for a moment, not for a breath. And when you know this, not as belief, but as being, you become untouchable in the deepest sense. The world may misunderstand you. People may project their pain onto you. But nothing can uproot the peace that blossoms from alignment. It is not a peace that needs protection. It is a peace that protects you without a wall, without a fight, without a single word. This is the miracle. You no longer need to be different to be whole. You no longer need to arrive to be complete. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a mystery to be lived. And that mystery is beautiful. Then let us go deeper still, not away from the world, but further into the heart of it, further into the part of you that has always known the way, not with facts, but with feeling, not with answers, but with a presence so pure, so immediate, that it renders all questions silent. The soul does not need to know what comes next. It only needs to be here. For here this sacred fleeting now is the only place the source can be felt. Not in the past, wrapped in memory, not in the future, woven in worry, but in this breath, this heartbeat, this quiet, open space between thoughts. And the more you stay here, the more miracles arise, not because you earned them, but because you stopped resisting them. You stopped living as if love were scarce. You stopped bargaining with life. You stopped waiting for permission to feel free, to feel joy, to feel worthy. What a profound shift it is when you stop postponing your peace. You no longer say, I'll be calm when, or I'll be grateful if. You no longer place your serenity on a distant pedestal, waiting for conditions to grant you what already lives within you. You begin to understand deeply, irrevocably, that everything you have been chasing is something you must now allow. The light is not far away. It is only dimmed by your belief that you are not yet ready to see it. But you are ready. You were ready the day you were born. Not ready to become someone, but ready to remember the someone you already are, the eternal one, the divine presence, clothed for a while in skin and story. And when you live from that remembrance, you stop performing, you stop defending, you stop editing your soul to make it more palatable to a world lost in its own forgetting. You live instead with open hands, open eyes, open heart. You begin to notice what you once overlooked, the way the morning light slips through the curtain, an ordinary miracle. The sound of your own breath as you lie awake before dawn, proof that you are still here, still being held by life. Even the ache in your chest becomes sacred because you no longer fear it. You know now that pain is not the absence of grace. It is often the very doorway through which grace enters. And so you soften to the mystery. You soften to not knowing. You soften to the possibility that this moment, however unfinished it may seem, is exactly what your soul needs. You are not a project. You are a presence. You are not an equation to solve, but a field to feel, a space to inhabit, a consciousness to awaken. And in that awakening, the world begins to feel new again, not because it has changed, but because you have. The trees seem to speak in silence. The sky hums with belonging. Even strangers carry a glint of recognition in their eyes, as if your soul remembers theirs from somewhere far beyond this place. Because it does. Because all separation is illusion. There is only one of us here, playing, learning, growing, remembering. And the miracle is not that you discover this truth. The miracle is that you begin to live it. Not on Sundays, not in sacred spaces, but in your kitchen, in your tears, in your laughter, in the quiet moment before sleep when your soul sighs and says, yes, this is it, this is enough. No more becoming, no more pretending, just this, just being. And being, my dear soul, is the beginning of every miracle that ever was. You are not here to fix what was never broken. You are not here to collect more light. You are here to realize that you are the light, casting shadows only when you forget to stand in your own radiance. The darkness was never a punishment. It was a passage, a tunnel you had to walk through to learn that illumination doesn't come from the world, it shines from within you. The source does not send storms to test you. It sends storms to show you that the calm has always lived inside you, that you are not the branches torn by the wind, you are the root that holds. And when the winds of life howl through the soul, as they sometimes must, you no longer grip for safety in the external. You drop deeper into your own presence. You find sanctuary not in escape, but in anchoring. You let the storm pass through you like music through a hollow reed, changing you, yes, but never destroying. This is the power of surrender, not weakness, but wisdom. The wisdom to stop resisting what island. The grace to let life touch you fully without shrinking from it. To let both joy and sorrow have their place at your table, knowing that nothing comes without offering you a piece of your own awakening. There is a holy maturity that begins to grow when you stop needing everything to feel good and start allowing everything to be sacred. You no longer search for perfect moments. You make the moment perfect by being utterly present within it. You no longer seek out sacredness in ritual alone. You discover it in the mundane. The way a child laughs without agenda. The way your hand fits your chest when your breath deepens. The way silence stretches wide enough to hold your every unspoken longing. And in that wideness, the divine arrives. Not as a voice from the heavens, but as a stillness so full, it silences all your questions. Not as a blaze of revelation, but as the subtle shift when your heart stops defending and starts trusting. Trusting not in outcomes, but in essence. Trusting not in what the path looks like, but in what walks it with you. The source is not a destination. It is the ever-present pulse beneath every step. And you don't get closer to it by striving. You become aware of it by shedding the identity built from survival, shedding the beliefs you borrowed but never questioned, shedding even your hopes until what's left is not hope but knowing. A knowing that is beyond emotion, beyond sensation, beyond explanation. A knowing that simply says, I am. And that I am is not a phrase, it is a frequency, a field, a home you carry with you, no matter how lost the world appears outside. From that field, you begin to live differently. Not louder, not faster, but with a gravity that pulls all things into balance. Your words become fewer, but more true. Your choices become simpler, but more powerful. You stop chasing alignment and start embodying it, wordless, weightless, unstoppable. Not because you've gained something new, but because you've finally allowed what's always been. And so the river flows onward, not seeking the ocean, but knowing it is already part of it. This is how your soul moves when you stop interrupting it like water, gentle but undeniable. It doesn't need permission to flow. It doesn't need validation to exist. It simply follows its nature. And your true nature, unburdened by thought or fear, is just as effortless, just as pure. There is nothing you must do to become who you are. The sky does not strain to be blue. The mountain does not strive to be strong. The rose does not earn its fragrance. And you divine, infinite, eternal, you do not need to hustle for your place in the sacred order of things. You belong because you are. And yet, how often have you felt exiled from your own being? Not because you were cast out, but because you believed the voices that said you had to earn your way home. But no one can deny you entrance to a kingdom that lives within you. No gatekeeper holds the key to your wholeness that was placed in your heart before your first breath. You unlock it not by force, but by remembrance. You remember through stillness, through wonder, through choosing truth over approval, and presence over performance. And in that remembering, life no longer feels like a test you must pass. It feels like a dance, a sacred movement between the seen and unseen, between your form and your formlessness, between your temporary expression and your eternal essence. The dance is not choreographed, it is improvised with the divine. Each moment offers a rhythm. Each breath is an invitation. Each choice is a brushstroke in the masterpiece you are painting with your presence. And the miracle is not that the masterpiece is perfect. The miracle is that it is alive, that you are alive, that the infinite, the unnameable, the source itself chose to express as you. Can you feel the wonder of that? Not as a concept, but as a vibration beneath your skin. You are not merely in the universe. The universe is in you. Every star, every tide, every whisper of wind carries the same origin as your consciousness. The atoms that make up your body once danced in the core of ancient suns. The love that stirs in your chest is not yours alone. It is the echo of something that moves all things toward wholeness. And when you remember this, the false boundaries begin to dissolve. You stop separating spirit from flesh, sacred from mundane, self from other. You begin to live in communion, not just with the divine, but with everything. The tree is no longer just wood and leaf, it is a presence. The sky is no longer just air and light, it is a cathedral. The stranger is no longer a mystery, they are a mirror. Everything is whispering, you are part of this. You are never alone. You are the miracle and the witness to it all. And so you walk not in fear, but in reverence. Not because every moment is easy, but because every moment is holy. Because when reverence becomes the rhythm of your life, you no longer live from habit, you live from harmony. You listen differently. You see with the eyes behind your eyes. And suddenly, even the smallest encounter becomes charged with meaning, with presence, with a quiet knowing that something far greater than you is living as you. You begin to realize that alignment is not a task to be achieved, it is a truth to be remembered in every step, every silence, every surrender. There is no striving here, only returning. Returning again and again to that still point within you that never left. That place so vast and unshaken that no opinion can distort it, no storm can move it. And from that center, something extraordinary begins to happen, not outside of you, but within. You begin to live, not in reaction, but in revelation. Not from memory, but from moment. You are no longer pulled by the gravity of old stories. You are moved by the magnetism of truth. The truth that you are loved, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. The truth that you are guided not by maps and plans, but by a deeper knowing that rises in stillness like a tide. The truth that life is not punishing you, it is polishing you, shaping you into a clearer vessel for light to pass through. And in this polishing, you start to welcome even the friction. You see that the moments that once made you shrink were actually sacred fires, burning away the layers of illusion that kept you from your own brilliance. What once felt like loss becomes space. What once felt like failure becomes refinement. What once felt like confusion becomes the breath before clarity. And you stop waiting for your life to begin, because you see now that it has always been happening perfectly, painfully, beautifully, just as it must. You are not behind. You are not off track. There is no track. There is only unfolding. There is only now. And now is enough. Now contains everything. When you stop arguing with what is, you find yourself embraced by what has always been. This is the miracle, not that you escape suffering, but that you discover a stillness within it. Not that you never fall, but that you rise softer, wiser, more aligned each time. Because alignment is not rigidity, it is fluidity. It is a tree bending in the wind, rooted and resilient. It is a river finding its way, not by force, but by yielding to gravity, to guidance, to grace. And so you yield not as surrender to defeat, but as surrender to the divine choreography of your life. You stop controlling and start collaborating. You stop fixing and start flowing. You stop seeking the miraculous and start embodying it. Because you now know the miracle is not something you will find. The miracle is what you become when you stop pretending you are not already whole. There comes a moment, quiet, uncelebrated, invisible to the outside world, when you stop searching for transformation and begin to live it. Not because something changed, but because you did. Because you finally turned inward with sincerity instead of strategy. Because you no longer asked life to give you peace, you offered peace to life. And in that reversal, the world becomes softer. Not because the noise stops, but because it no longer reaches the center of you. You've become the stillness beneath the sound, the sky beneath the clouds, the unmoving presence that allows all things but clings to none. This is not a detachment born from numbness. It is a compassion born from clarity. A seeing that is so complete, so rooted in truth that judgment dissolves and love remains. You love not because people earn it, but because love is what flows through you when there is nothing left to protect. You forgive not because it is easy, but because your soul can no longer carry the weight of an old story. You let go not because you no longer care, but because you finally trust what comes next. And trust, that is the sacred soil in which miracles bloom. Not forced, not fabricated, but revealed. Trust allows you to walk into the unknown without fear, to speak without needing applause, to rest without guilt. It is the quiet power of one who knows, I do not walk alone. I walk with every breath of creation. I walk with the intelligence that paints galaxies and grows gardens from dust. I walk with the source not above me, not beyond me, but as me. And from this knowing, new eyes open. You stop interpreting life through the lens of lack. You begin to see not what is missing, but what is mirroring. Every situation becomes a teacher. Every delay becomes protection. Every ending becomes the fertile ground of rebirth. Even the silence becomes sacred, especially the silence, because in silence there is no role to perform, there is no mask to wear, there is only being. And in being, you meet the divine, not as an idea, but as the very texture of your existence. You realize you don't need more time, you need more presence. You don't need more achievements, you need more alignment. You don't need to be saved, you need to remember that you were never lost. This is the gentle revolution of the soul, the one that doesn't arrive in thunder but in a soft exhale, a knowing without words, a freedom without noise, a return without distance. And once you touch this space within you, even for a breath, you are changed. You no longer need to explain yourself to the world, you simply live your truth. You no longer need to convince others to understand. You understand yourself, and that is enough. You no longer chase certainty, you walk in wonder. The world may not see the shift, but you feel it in the way your feet meet the ground, and the way your eyes meet the sky, and the way your spirit says, yes, this is the way. There is a silence here, ancient, sacred, undisturbed. It does not demand that you change. It does not wait for you to earn its grace. It simply welcomes you like the ocean welcomes the river without question. It wraps around your weariness, your longing, your years of reaching, and it whispers the only truth that matters now. You are already held. Can you feel that? Not as a fleeting comfort, but as a foundation beneath your very breath. You are already in the place you long to reach. Not because everything outside has been resolved, but because everything within has been remembered. The light you prayed would save you has been quietly burning in your chest all along. And now that you've stilled yourself enough to see it, everything begins to glow. You begin to walk not with answers, but with reverence. Not with certainty, but with peace. The world no longer needs to change for you to be free, because your freedom was never in the world. It was always in your willingness to meet it all with open hands, with an unguarded heart, with a soul no longer hiding from its own radiance. You stop measuring your worth by what you produce. You stop chasing love that demands your shrinking. You stop resisting the moment because the moment has become holy. And so you move through life like one who remembers what most have forgotten. That joy is not pleasure, it is presence. That success is not status, it is alignment. That peace is not the absence of trouble, it is the presence of truth. And the truth is this: you are the miracle you were waiting for. You are not on the way to becoming something greater, you are the greater already revealed when the veil of doubt is lifted. You are not healing toward wholeness, you are peeling away all that is not whole. You are not climbing toward the divine, you are remembering that the divine was never above, never beyond, never apart. It has always been within you, breathing you, guiding you, loving you in ways words cannot hold. And now, as the journey folds into this sacred stillness, you don't need a conclusion, you don't need a finish line. You simply need to rest in the knowing that you are aligned with the source. And when you are aligned, life aligns with you, not because you control it, but because you become so deeply yourself, the universe cannot help but respond in harmony. So let yourself soften one final time. Let yourself breathe, not to survive, but to embody the miracle you are. And may you carry this remembrance into every room you enter, into every silence you keep, into every kindness you offer, not to prove anything, not to fix anything, but to live as one who has returned. Return to the breath. Return to the truth. Return to the source. And in that return, everything is made whole. You are home, and home, beloved soul, is where the miracle has always been.